Hello, English learners, and welcome back to the Best English Podcast. I'm your host, Sophia, and I am absolutely thrilled to have you joining me today. If you're joining us for the very first time, we're so glad to have you. Here, we are dedicated to helping you improve your English skills every single day. In each episode, we dive into real-life situations, interesting stories, and everyday conversations. Our goal is to make your English listening and speaking abilities stronger and more confident. I am your host, Sophia, and today we have a very engaging and practical session planned, especially for our C1 level English learners. Let's begin with a story. Something that happened to my friend Liam just last week. It really shows how we can handle pressure in our professional lives. Liam works as a software engineer at a fast-growing tech company in Austin. The environment there is always busy, always changing. One Tuesday morning, he walked into the office, grabbed his coffee, and sat down at his desk, expecting a normal day. But then, an email popped up from his manager. The subject line was in all capital letters, "Urgent report needed." His manager needed a detailed performance analysis of a new software feature, and it was due in just 2 hours before a major client meeting. At first, Liam felt a wave of stress wash over him. His heart started beating a little faster. 2 hours seemed like an impossible deadline for the amount of data he needed to pull and analyze. His first thought was, "There is no way I can finish this." But then he took a deep breath and remembered some of the time management strategies he had been learning about. Instead of letting the panic take over, he decided to approach the problem logically. He immediately grabbed a notepad and broke the huge task down into smaller, more manageable steps. The first step was to identify the most critical pieces of information the client would want to see. He knew he couldn't include everything, so he had to prioritize. He decided to focus on user engagement metrics and the error rate, the two most important points. Next, he put on his noise-canceling headphones to block out the office chatter and ignored his other emails and notifications. He streamlined his process, focusing entirely on one small step at a time. By the end of the 2 hours, with just minutes to spare, Liam had completed a clear and concise report. He sent it to his manager and felt a huge sense of relief and pride. He told me later that the feeling of accomplishment was incredible. He had turned a stressful, seemingly impossible situation into a success. From Liam's story, we can learn two very important things. First, staying calm under pressure is a superpower. It allows you to think clearly and make logical decisions, rather than emotional ones. Second, planning your tasks, even for a short deadline, makes big challenges much more manageable. Breaking a large project into smaller pieces makes it feel less overwhelming. Now, let's think about a situation that many of us might experience at home. My neighbors, Noah and Mia, recently decided to renovate their kitchen. It was an old kitchen from the 1980s, and they were so excited to modernize it. But they had a very long list of things to do. They needed to buy new appliances like a refrigerator and an oven, choose new countertops, pick a color to paint the walls, and hire someone to install new cabinets. Noah told me that when they first wrote down everything that needed to be done, the list looked endless. Mia could have felt completely overwhelmed by the scale of the project, but instead, she created a detailed plan using a spreadsheet. She listed every single task, assigned a budget to each one, and set a timeline. She prioritized what needed to be done first, like removing the old cabinets before the new ones could be installed. She even asked Noah to take charge of certain tasks, like researching the best appliances within their budget. They decided on a clear division of labor. By working together and following their plan, they finished the renovation smoothly. The results were amazing. Their new kitchen looks like it's from a magazine. This example shows us that collaboration and careful planning can turn a complicated and potentially stressful project into a very successful and rewarding experience. Speaking of planning, let me share a personal experience. A few months ago, I wanted to organize a small summer barbecue for my family and a few close friends. It was my first time arranging something like this all by myself, so I honestly wasn't sure where to start. I decided to apply the same principles of planning. I made a detailed checklist of everything I needed. First on the list was the menu. I had to consider that one of my friends is a vegetarian, so I planned some non-meat options as well. Then, I sent out simple digital invitations to my friends and family. I even created a music playlist to create a fun and relaxed atmosphere. On the day of the gathering, I set up the decorations in the backyard and prepared all the food in advance. Because I had planned everything out, the day went perfectly. I was able to relax and enjoy the time with my guests instead of running around feeling stressed. I learned that preparation and attention to detail, even for a small event, make it enjoyable for everyone involved, especially the host. Now, let's discuss another crucial skill: communication. My colleague Ethan often works with international clients from all over the world. He told me that the key to effective cross-cultural communication is listening carefully and not being afraid to ask clarifying questions when you're unsure about something. He shared a story about a meeting he once had with a new client from Germany. During their video call, Ethan was explaining the project timeline. He noticed that the client had a slightly confused expression on his face when he mentioned a specific deadline. The client didn't say anything, but his body language showed he was unsure. Instead of just assuming the client understood and moving on, Ethan politely paused. He said, "I just want to make sure I was clear about the timeline for the first phase. Could you tell me your understanding of the deadline?" This small action, this simple clarifying question, prevented a huge potential misunderstanding. The client appreciated that Ethan took the time to ensure they were on the same page, and it helped build a foundation of trust between them. Imagine this situation in your own life. You are at a family dinner, and your uncle is telling a story about his recent trip. He's talking fast, and you find the story a little confusing. It's easy to just nod and smile without really understanding, but that doesn't help anyone. Instead, you could wait for a natural pause and ask a simple question. You could say something like, "Could you explain that part again?" "I think I missed something," or "I'm not sure I understand what happened next. Can you give an example?" Using polite and clear language to ask for clarification shows that you are attentive and respectful. It shows you care about what the other person is saying. This not only helps your understanding, but also improves your relationships with people. Let's talk about problem solving. Last month, my friend Ava faced a dilemma at her job as a graphic designer. She had two big projects due at the same time, and both were for important clients. She felt pulled in two different directions. Instead of panicking and trying to do everything at once, she took a step back to evaluate the situation. She analyzed which project required more immediate attention. One project had a hard deadline for a product launch, while the other had a bit more flexibility. She also asked her husband for his advice. He suggested a technique called time blocking, where you split your workday into focused sessions for each project. By dividing her time wisely and focusing on one project at a time, Ava finished both projects successfully and with high quality. This story shows that breaking problems down into smaller parts and seeking guidance when you need it is a very smart strategy. You don't always have to solve every problem alone. Now, I want to introduce a fun exercise related to vocabulary and listening. I once read an article about a practice called mindful listening. This means listening with your full attention, without getting distracted by your own thoughts or thinking about what you are going to say next. I decided to try it myself during a conversation with my neighbor, Mr. Henderson. He's a retired teacher and loves to tell stories. Normally, while he was speaking, I would start preparing my response in my head, but this time, I focused only on his words, his tone of voice, and his expressions. I tried to fully understand his story from his perspective. I realized that I caught so many more details that I would have otherwise missed. I was able to respond more thoughtfully and accurately. Practicing mindful listening helps you catch subtle information and improves your overall comprehension. It's a great skill for any advanced English learner. Here is another example related to practice. My friend Isabella, who is an English teacher, often helps her students improve their speaking skills. She told me that the students who make the most progress are the ones who practice repeating stories in English every day. One of her students, a young man named Lucas, used to struggle with expressing his ideas fluently. He was often hesitant and paused a lot. Isabella suggested that he read a short news article every day and then try to retell the story in his own words, out loud. By practicing this simple storytelling exercise daily, Lucas improved his fluency and confidence. Within just a few weeks, he could explain his thoughts much more clearly and smoothly. This shows that daily, consistent practice is absolutely essential for mastering advanced English. It's not about studying for hours one day a week. It's about doing a little bit every day. Let me tell you about a situation that happened at an airport. My friend Mason and his wife, Harper, were traveling last month. Their flight from Chicago to Denver was delayed due to bad weather. They were very worried because they had a connecting flight to catch in Denver, and the connection time was already short. It would have been very easy to get stressed and panicked. But instead of getting upset, Mason went to the airline service desk. He waited patiently in line, and when it was his turn, he clearly and politely explained their situation. He asked the airline representative, "What is the best way for us to handle this situation to ensure we make our connection?" The staff member gave them precise instructions on what to do when they landed in Denver. Mason and Harper listened carefully and followed the instructions exactly. In the end, they managed to get on their connecting flight just in time. This story really shows the importance of staying calm and using clear, polite language, especially in stressful situations. Panic rarely helps. Speaking of stress, I want to share a lesson from my own life. A few weeks ago, I was preparing for a very important presentation at work. It was a high-stakes meeting with senior executives, and I felt quite nervous. I remembered that practicing out loud is one of the best ways to build confidence. So, I spent about an hour in my home office rehearsing my speech. I didn't just read the slides, I said the words out loud. I imagined the questions that the executives might ask, and I prepared answers for them. I even timed myself to make sure I wouldn't go over the allotted time. On the day of the presentation, I still felt a few butterflies in my stomach, but overall, I felt prepared and confident. Everything went smoothly. This experience taught me that thorough preparation is the best way to reduce anxiety and allows you to perform at your best. Let's consider a social situation. My friend Logan invited me to a charity event he had organized. During the event, he introduced me to a few important guests. One of them, Mr. Sterling, was an influential author, and I really wanted to ask him some questions about his work. He was in the middle of a conversation with another group of people. Instead of interrupting, which would have been rude, I waited patiently nearby. When there was a natural pause in their conversation, I approached him politely. I asked clear, concise questions about his writing process. He seemed to appreciate my respectful approach and shared some very valuable insights with me. This example highlights the importance of polite timing and clarity when you are communicating with people in more formal settings. Knowing when to speak is just as important as knowing what to say. Now, let's look at a household situation. My neighbor Abigail was teaching her 2 young children how to bake cookies. She noticed that they were making a lot of mistakes, like spilling flour and not measuring the sugar correctly. They were starting to get frustrated. Instead of criticizing them or taking over, she patiently explained the process again, step by step. She showed them how to measure the flour properly and encouraged them to try again. Her calm and supportive approach helped her children learn quickly. They even started to enjoy the process of baking together. From this simple story, we can see that patience and clear explanations are powerful tools for teaching and teamwork, whether it's in the kitchen or in the office. Another story comes from my friend Benjamin, who enjoys outdoor activities. He recently organized a hiking trip with his family. Before the trip, he didn't just pick a trail and go. He carefully researched the trail's difficulty, prepared all the necessary equipment like water bottles and a first aid kit, and had a detailed discussion about safety precautions with his wife and children. During the hike, one of the children got tired. But because Benjamin had planned for breaks and brought extra snacks and water, the group was able to manage the situation well. Planning ahead and communicating expectations clearly made the entire experience safe and enjoyable for everyone. Let's shift our focus back to a professional scenario. My colleague Evelyn had to negotiate a contract with a new client. She knew that understanding the client's priorities was the most important part of the negotiation. During their meeting, she listened more than she spoke. She listened carefully to what the client needed. She asked precise questions to clarify their expectations. For example, she said, "So, if I understand correctly, your main priority is the delivery speed, even more so than the cost. Is that right?" She would repeat key points to confirm her understanding. By the end of the meeting, both sides reached a satisfactory agreement that everyone felt good about. This story demonstrates that effective listening, asking clarifying questions, and having patience are absolutely essential skills in professional communication and negotiation. Now, I want to share an example from everyday life. Last week, I went to a local farmer's market. I noticed that one of the vendors was having trouble explaining the prices of his vegetables to a tourist who didn't speak much English. I stepped in and offered to help. I translated the prices clearly and politely. The customer understood perfectly, bought several items, and the vendor thanked me for helping. This small experience shows that clear communication can make our daily interactions much smoother and can build goodwill between people. It felt good to help bridge that small communication gap. Here's a quick vocabulary tip for you. During conversations, especially in professional or formal settings, you can use certain words to make your speech more precise and advanced. Words like clarify, confirm, ensure, and demonstrate. For example, instead of just saying, "I think this is right," you could say something more professional like, "Let me clarify the details to ensure everything is correct." Using precise vocabulary like this improves understanding and makes your English sound more sophisticated and confident. Finally, for this section, let me tell you a story about problem solving in daily life. My friend Elijah noticed that his home Wi-Fi was very slow. His first instinct could have been to call the internet company and complain, but he decided to try to troubleshoot the problem himself first. He started with the basics. He checked the router, restarted it, and then he noticed that his son's gaming console was using a huge amount of bandwidth. By managing the devices connected to the network and restarting the router, he fixed the problem himself in just a few minutes. This story shows that analyzing a problem carefully and taking logical step-by-step actions often leads to faster and more empowering solutions. Last month, my friend Olivia shared an interesting experience about teamwork at her workplace. She works in a consulting company, and her team had a huge project with a very tight deadline. Each team member had a specific role and responsibility. However, they encountered some unexpected issues when the data they needed from another department was incomplete. Instead of wasting time blaming the other department, Olivia immediately suggested a quick team meeting. In the meeting, they didn't focus on the problem, they focused on the solution. They identified the most critical tasks that could still be done and redistributed the responsibilities efficiently to cover the gaps. By collaborating closely and supporting one another, they managed to find alternative data sources and finish the project ahead of schedule. This really shows that great teamwork and effective communication can turn a difficult, stressful situation into a major success. I remember a time when I had to make a difficult decision at home. My wife and I were planning to renovate our living room, but we had a limited budget. We had so many ideas. We considered several options, from buying all new furniture to just repainting the walls. After discussing our priorities carefully, we decided to focus on the changes that would have the most visual impact first. We chose to repaint the walls a fresh, new color and add a few new decorations like pillows and a new rug. The result was remarkable. The room felt completely new, and we stayed well within our budget. This example illustrates that thoughtful decision-making and clear communication between family members make planning and execution much easier and more effective. Let's talk about adapting to new technology. My colleague Mason recently introduced a new software tool at work. It was a project management tool designed to make the team more efficient. However, many team members found it challenging and confusing to understand at first. They were used to the old system. Instead of just letting them struggle with it, Mason organized a brief workshop. He explained the main features step by step. He also created a simple one-page guide with screenshots that his colleagues could refer to whenever they needed help. By taking this structured and supportive approach, the team quickly became confident in using the new software, and their productivity improved significantly. This situation highlights that teaching and guiding others patiently can make complex tasks much more manageable for everyone. Here is another story from my own life. I once had to organize a small business event with international guests. The main challenge was that some of the attendees had specific dietary restrictions. One person was gluten-free, another had a nut allergy, and a few were vegetarian. I contacted each participant in advance to politely clarify their needs. Then, I coordinated carefully with the catering team to ensure that each meal was prepared correctly and labeled clearly. On the day of the event, everyone felt comfortable and well cared for. The event went smoothly, and the guests were very appreciative. This shows that paying close attention to details and asking clear questions beforehand improves outcomes and ensures that people feel respected and included. Let's explore a communication challenge in a professional context. My friend Noah works as a project manager in a multinational company. During a recent project, he realized that some instructions he had received from a senior manager were a bit unclear. They could have been interpreted in two different ways, which could have caused serious errors down the line. Instead of just guessing what the manager meant, Noah took a proactive approach. He summarized what he understood from the instructions in a polite email. He wrote, "Just to confirm my understanding." And then he listed the steps he planned to take. He asked the manager to confirm if his interpretation was correct. The manager responded promptly, clarified the point, and the project continued without any problems. This demonstrates the immense importance of double-checking and seeking clarification in professional settings. A simple email can prevent a major mistake. Travel experiences can also provide excellent lessons in communication and problem-solving. My friend Amelia recently traveled to a European city with her husband. They had an ambitious plan to explore several landmarks in a single day. While visiting one museum, they realized that the next site on their list required pre-booked tickets, which they did not have. Instead of panicking or getting frustrated, Amelia calmly went to the information desk at the museum and asked the staff for advice. They were very helpful and suggested some alternative activities nearby that didn't require advance booking. She also used her phone to book tickets for the site for the next day. The day turned out to be wonderful and enjoyable, proving that adaptability and calm thinking can make travel experiences much more rewarding. Here is an example of handling misunderstandings. My colleague Jackson recently experienced a situation where a client misinterpreted an email he had sent. The client was upset about what they thought Jackson meant. Instead of reacting defensively and writing an angry email back, Jackson picked up the phone. He called the client and calmly explained his intended message. He used polite phrases like, "I apologize if my email was unclear," and "let me clarify the key points for you." The client appreciated the direct and respectful approach, and the situation was resolved quickly and peacefully. This shows that addressing misunderstandings directly, calmly, and respectfully leads to much better results than avoiding or ignoring the problem. Now, let's consider the valuable lesson of learning from mistakes. My friend Isabella, the English teacher, shared a story about one of her students, a man named David. David often mispronounced certain words during class, and initially, he felt very embarrassed about it. But instead of giving up or avoiding speaking, he decided to face the challenge. He started recording himself speaking on his phone every day. He would then listen carefully to the recordings to identify his mistakes. With this consistent practice and self-reflection, David's pronunciation improved significantly. This story highlights the importance of self-reflection, patience, and daily practice when you are learning any advanced skill, especially a language. Mistakes are not failures. They are learning opportunities. I want to share a personal story about time management. A few weeks ago, I had to write an important report for work while also preparing for a family event over the weekend. Initially, it seemed impossible to complete both tasks on time without feeling stressed. I created a very clear schedule for my week. I allocated focused time blocks for each task. For example, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., I would work only on the report, with no distractions. Then I would take a break. During the family event, I made sure to be fully present and enjoy the time with my family. When it was time to work, I focused completely on work. By planning carefully and managing my attention, I completed both responsibilities efficiently and felt good about both. This example demonstrates that effective time management is crucial for balancing our professional and personal lives. Here is a story about problem solving in everyday life. My friend Harper noticed that her car had a flat tire early one morning. She was on her way to an important meeting. She could have called for roadside assistance and waited, but she decided to try fixing it herself. She remembered there was a spare tire and tools in the trunk. She followed a step-by-step guide she found online on her phone. She successfully changed the tire in under 30 minutes. Harper told me that the sense of achievement she felt was incredible. She felt so capable. This shows that taking initiative and carefully following instructions often leads to successful problem solving and a great boost in confidence. Let's talk about decision-making in uncertain situations. My friend Liam had to choose between two potential job offers. One company offered a higher salary, which was very tempting. The other company offered a slightly lower salary, but provided much better opportunities for career growth and learning. Liam made a list of his personal and professional priorities. He thought about his long-term goals, not just the immediate financial gain. He also considered things like work-life balance and the company culture. After careful evaluation and talking it over with his family, he chose the job that aligned better with his long-term aspirations. This example illustrates that making informed decisions requires analyzing your options carefully and considering the long-term consequences. Now, consider an example from community work. My neighbor Abigail volunteers at a local charity event every year. This year, she noticed that many of the new volunteers were unsure of their tasks, which was causing some confusion and delay. Abigail took the initiative. She created a simple instruction guide, printed a few copies, and coordinated small groups of volunteers efficiently. The event went smoothly, and everyone appreciated her clear guidance and organization. This story shows that organizing information and communicating effectively helps groups perform better and achieve their goals more successfully. Here is a professional scenario. My colleague Ethan had to present complex financial data to a team that was not familiar with the topic. Instead of overwhelming them with spreadsheets full of numbers, he simplified the information. He used clear visuals, like charts and graphs, and explained the data using real-life examples that the team could relate to. By doing this, everyone understood the key points quickly, and the discussion became much more productive. This demonstrates that simplifying complex information and using relatable examples is a key skill for improving understanding, especially in professional settings. Let's talk about everyday problem solving at home. Last month, my friend Evelyn's kitchen sink started leaking. Instead of panicking and calling a plumber right away, she inspected the pipes carefully and identified the source of the leak. It was a loose connection. She researched a solution online, went to the hardware store to buy the necessary tool, and fixed it herself. Her husband helped by holding a flashlight and handing her the tools. Together, they solved the problem efficiently. This shows that observing carefully, researching solutions, and collaborating with others often leads to practical and cost-effective results. Another interesting story comes from travel planning. My friend Amelia planned a vacation to multiple countries in Europe. She created a very detailed itinerary, including all her transportation, accommodation, and sightseeing plans. On one day, a train she was supposed to take was canceled unexpectedly. Because she had prepared alternative plans in advance, she and her husband quickly adapted. They knew which bus to take instead and didn't lose any time or miss any of their planned activities. This story illustrates that planning ahead and preparing for possible problems or contingencies makes travel smoother and much less stressful. Here is a story about learning new skills. My friend Benjamin decided to take cooking lessons to improve his skills at home. He faced challenges initially because some of the recipes were very complex. Instead of giving up, he practiced the same recipes repeatedly. He wasn't afraid to ask the instructor questions, and he made small adjustments each time he cooked. After several weeks of consistent practice, he was able to cook delicious, complex meals confidently. This example shows that persistence, practice, and seeking guidance are essential for mastering any advanced skill. Now, let's discuss professional networking. My colleague Olivia attended an international conference recently. She wanted to meet influential people in her field, but felt nervous about starting conversations with strangers. She prepared some questions in advance about topics she was genuinely interested in. When she met people, she introduced herself politely and listened carefully to their responses. By showing genuine interest and asking thoughtful questions, she built several meaningful connections. This demonstrates that preparation, good listening skills, and polite engagement are the keys to successful networking. Finally, let's talk about handling feedback. My friend Liam once received some constructive criticism from his manager regarding a presentation he gave. Initially, he felt a little disappointed, but then he decided to focus on the lesson rather than the emotion. He asked his manager for specific suggestions on how he could improve. He then implemented that feedback in his next presentation. The improvement was very noticeable, and Liam felt proud of his growth. This shows that receiving feedback with an open mind and applying it carefully leads to continuous improvement and professional development. My friend Chloe recently shared an interesting story about conflict resolution at her workplace. She works in a marketing company, and two of her team members had a strong disagreement on the approach for a new campaign. Instead of letting the situation get worse, Chloe suggested a meeting where each person could present their ideas calmly and without interruption. She acted as a facilitator, encouraging everyone to listen carefully to the other person's point of view. By the end of the discussion, they found a way to combine the best aspects of both proposals into a much stronger and more creative strategy. This story shows that mediating discussions and listening attentively can help resolve conflicts effectively and often leads to better outcomes. I also want to share a personal experience related to making decisions under uncertainty. Last year, I needed to choose between two apartments to rent. One was close to my work but was quite small. The other was much larger but was a longer commute. I created a pros and cons list for each option. I considered our long-term comfort, the cost of commuting, and our lifestyle. I discussed the options in detail with my wife. We decided to choose the apartment that suited our lifestyle better, even with the longer commute, and the decision turned out to be excellent for our family. This example demonstrates that weighing your priorities, analyzing your options, and discussing decisions with trusted people can lead to better outcomes. Let's consider a professional scenario involving negotiation. My colleague Ethan recently had to negotiate a contract with a supplier. Instead of focusing only on getting the lowest price, he explored other aspects of the deal. He discussed factors such as delivery time, quality assurance, and payment terms. By discussing these factors openly and looking for common ground, Ethan reached an agreement that benefited both his company and the supplier. This story illustrates that successful negotiation requires understanding multiple perspectives and focusing on creating a win-win situation. Here is an example of adaptability in daily life. My neighbor Evelyn was hosting a family gathering when there was a sudden power outage in the neighborhood. Instead of letting the situation spoil the evening, she quickly found some candles, creating a cozy atmosphere. She also brought out some board games. Her family ended up having a wonderful evening, sharing stories and playing games by candlelight. This story shows that staying calm, thinking creatively, and adapting to unexpected challenges can make situations more manageable and even more memorable. Travel experiences often teach us valuable lessons. My friend Logan and his wife recently went on a hiking trip in the mountains. During the hike, they encountered a trail that was blocked due to fallen trees from a recent storm. Rather than turning back immediately, they asked some local hikers for advice. They discovered an alternative route that was not on their map. They adjusted their plan, enjoyed the rest of the hike, and even discovered a beautiful scenic spot that they would have missed otherwise. This shows that flexibility, problem-solving, and being open to asking for guidance can lead to positive experiences, even when you face unexpected obstacles. Let's discuss learning from mistakes. My friend Isabella, the English teacher, shared a story about a student named Mia. Mia often made the same grammatical errors in her essays, and at first she felt very discouraged. Instead of giving up, Mia started to review each correction her teacher made very carefully. She would practice writing similar sentences and would ask her teacher questions whenever she was unsure. After consistent practice and effort, Mia's writing improved significantly. This story highlights the importance of persistence, reflection, and asking for clarification to advance your language skills. Here is an example of effective communication at home. My friend Noah noticed that his wife seemed unhappy with the way they were dividing the household chores. Instead of arguing about it, he suggested they sit down and have a calm discussion. They each listed the tasks they didn't mind doing and the tasks they disliked. By listening to each other's concerns and finding a compromise, they created a new plan that worked for both of them. This shows that clear communication, empathy, and negotiation can improve relationships and daily life. I want to share a story about problem-solving in professional life. My colleague Olivia had to lead a team that was falling behind on a project schedule. She noticed that the team members were confused about their priorities. Instead of assigning blame, she organized a short meeting. She clarified each person's role and provided clear guidance on the most critical tasks. With this clear direction and support, the team regained its momentum and finished the project successfully. This demonstrates that leadership, clarity, and support are essential for managing teams effectively. Now, let's consider a situation involving cultural awareness. My friend Mason recently traveled to another country for work. During a business lunch, he noticed that the dining etiquette was very different from what he was used to in the United States. Instead of just assuming he knew what to do, he observed his local colleagues and politely asked for advice. His respect for the local cultural norms impressed his colleagues and helped him build stronger professional relationships. This story shows that observing, asking questions, and adapting to different cultural contexts are crucial skills in our interconnected world. Here is an example of learning new skills step by step. My friend Benjamin decided to learn photography. Initially, he struggled with all the different camera settings and the rules of composition. Instead of getting frustrated, he started small. He studied online tutorials, practiced taking photos every day, and asked for feedback from experienced photographers. Gradually, his photos improved, and he even participated in a local photography exhibition. This story highlights that consistent practice, patience, and seeking guidance are key to mastering advanced skills. I also want to share a lesson about preparation. Last month, I had to give a presentation at a professional seminar. I spent a lot of time researching the topic thoroughly, preparing clear and visually appealing slides, and practicing my speech multiple times. During the seminar, I was able to present confidently and respond to questions from the audience effectively. This experience reminded me that preparation, practice, and anticipating possible questions are crucial for success in public speaking. Let's discuss problem solving in unexpected situations. My friend Harper once found herself locked out of her house early in the morning. Instead of panicking, she first called a locksmith. While she was waiting, she checked all the windows and doors to see if there was a safe way to get in. She also called her husband, who was on his way home from work, to see if he had a spare key with him. The situation was resolved quickly, and they both learned the importance of having a backup plan, like leaving a spare key with a trusted neighbor. This shows that staying calm, thinking logically, and coordinating with others can help solve emergencies efficiently. Here is an example of effective delegation. My colleague Logan manages a team of 6 people. During a very busy project, he realized he could not handle every single task by himself. Instead of trying to do everything and getting overwhelmed, he identified each team member's strengths and assigned responsibilities accordingly. By trusting his team and providing clear guidance, the project was completed on time and exceeded everyone's expectations. This story demonstrates that delegation, trust, and strategic planning are essential leadership skills. Let's consider a scenario involving technology adaptation. My friend Evelyn started using a new project management tool at work. Initially, she found it confusing and inefficient. Instead of ignoring it, she spent time watching tutorials, attending webinars, and asking her colleagues for tips. Gradually, she became proficient and discovered many features that significantly improved her workflow. This story shows that embracing new tools, asking questions, and learning step by step can enhance our productivity and efficiency. Now, let's explore a story about careful observation. My neighbor Ethan noticed that the plants in his garden were wilting, even though he was watering them regularly. He did some research online and then examined the soil and the amount of sunlight each plant was getting. He realized that certain plants required more shade. By simply adjusting the positions of the plants and changing his watering routine, his garden began to flourish. This example highlights that careful observation, research, and adapting your actions based on what you find can improve results in many areas of life. Here is a professional scenario about managing pressure. My colleague Olivia had to meet a tight deadline while also handling multiple client calls. Instead of rushing and making mistakes, she prioritized her tasks. She focused on one task at a time and communicated clearly with her clients about her progress. By staying organized and calm, she completed all her work efficiently and without any errors. This story shows that time management, prioritization, and clear communication are vital skills in high-pressure situations. Another interesting story comes from social interactions. My friend Benjamin attended a networking event where he did not know anyone. Instead of feeling anxious and standing in a corner, he prepared a few questions and topics to talk about in advance. By approaching people politely, listening carefully, and showing genuine curiosity, he built several meaningful connections. This demonstrates that preparation, confidence, and active listening can help you develop your professional and social networks. Travel experiences often provide lessons in adaptability. My friend Amelia and her husband planned a road trip across several cities. On the very first day, their car broke down unexpectedly. Instead of letting frustration take over, they researched nearby repair shops, arranged for a temporary rental car, and adjusted their schedule. The trip continued smoothly, and they even discovered a small, charming town that they had not planned to visit. This story illustrates that flexibility, problem-solving, and staying calm can enhance our travel experiences, even when things go wrong. Let's consider a learning scenario. My friend Logan decided to improve his public speaking skills. Initially, he would stumble over his words and feel very nervous. Instead of avoiding practice, he started recording himself, analyzing his mistakes, and rehearsing regularly. Gradually, his confidence and clarity improved significantly. This example shows that consistent practice, self-reflection, and a willingness to face your challenges are what strengthen advanced skills. Here is a story about balancing work and personal life. My colleague Noah often had very long work hours, which affected his time with his family. He decided to create a schedule that allocated focused work periods and specific family moments. By communicating his boundaries clearly with his colleagues and his family, he improved his productivity at work while also maintaining his strong personal relationships. This story demonstrates that planning, prioritization, and clear communication are essential for maintaining a healthy balance in our daily lives. My friend Daniel recently shared a story about innovation at work. His team was tasked with creating a more efficient filing system. Instead of following the usual approach, Daniel encouraged everyone to brainstorm ideas freely. They combined different suggestions, tested small prototypes, and refined the system over several days. The result was more organized, time-saving, and easier to use for the entire department. This story demonstrates that creativity, experimentation, and collaboration lead to effective solutions in professional environments. I also want to share a personal story about goal setting. Last year, I decided to improve my physical fitness. I set specific, measurable targets, created a workout schedule, and tracked my progress weekly. Some days were challenging, but by staying consistent and adjusting exercises when needed, I achieved significant improvements. This story highlights that setting clear goals, monitoring progress, and staying committed are crucial for personal growth. Let's consider problem-solving in a professional scenario. My colleague Olivia noticed that a report contained inaccurate data just before a major presentation. Instead of panicking, she quickly verified key figures, corrected errors, and updated visuals. She also communicated the changes to her team to ensure consistency. The presentation went smoothly, and clients appreciated the accuracy. This story demonstrates that composure, attention to detail, and quick action are vital in high-pressure situations. Here is an example of effective communication in social life. My friend Emma attended a community gathering where most people were unfamiliar to her. She introduced herself politely, asked open-ended questions, and listened actively to responses. By showing genuine interest, she quickly formed meaningful connections. This example highlights that openness, curiosity, and attentive listening improve social interactions and build trust. Travel experiences often provide lessons in adaptability. My friend Anna and her husband had planned a scenic hike, but heavy rain made the path unsafe. Instead of canceling the day, they explored nearby attractions, visited a cultural museum, and enjoyed a local cafe. They ended the day with a sense of discovery and satisfaction. This story shows that flexibility, curiosity, and problem-solving enhance travel experiences even when plans change unexpectedly. I want to share a story about managing responsibilities at home. My neighbor Laura had several household tasks and family commitments to balance in a single day. She created a clear schedule, prioritized urgent activities, and asked her husband to assist with specific chores. By coordinating effectively and communicating clearly, she completed everything efficiently. This example demonstrates that organization, prioritization, and collaboration improve daily productivity and reduce stress. Let's consider professional growth through continuous learning. My colleague James wanted to enhance his data analysis skills. He enrolled in online courses, practiced exercises daily, and applied new techniques to real projects. Over several months, his efficiency and confidence improved significantly. This story emphasizes that consistent practice, structured learning, and applying knowledge lead to measurable professional development. Here is an example of problem solving in unexpected situations. My friend Michael's car broke down during a long trip. Instead of panicking, he assessed the problem, called for roadside assistance, and researched nearby repair shops. While waiting, he explored the town and found a small historical site, turning a setback into an opportunity. This story shows that calmness, logical thinking, and adaptability improve outcomes when facing unexpected challenges. Let's talk about teamwork in home projects. My friend Emma decided to redecorate her living room with her husband. She assigned tasks based on skills, communicated clearly about preferences, and coordinated the timing of each step. The result was efficient work, a beautiful living space, and a sense of accomplishment for both. This example highlights that collaboration, clear communication, and planning improve both outcomes and personal satisfaction. Here is an example of leadership in professional settings. My colleague David managed a large project with tight deadlines. Instead of micromanaging, he set clear objectives, encouraged initiative, and provided guidance when needed. Team members felt empowered, completed tasks efficiently, and delivered high-quality results. This story demonstrates that trust, clear direction, and supportive leadership are essential for team success. Now consider decision-making in personal life. My friend Laura had to choose between two weekend plans, attending a family reunion or participating in a local workshop. She evaluated priorities, discussed preferences with her husband, and considered long-term benefits. They opted for the workshop, which turned out to be both enjoyable and educational. This example shows that thoughtful evaluation, discussion, and balancing priorities lead to better personal decisions. Here's a story about professional problem solving. My colleague Olivia encountered a technical error in a client presentation. She quickly assessed the issue, implemented a backup plan, and communicated the solution clearly to the audience. The presentation was successful, and the client appreciated her professionalism. This example demonstrates that preparation, adaptability, and clear communication are essential in professional scenarios. Let's consider learning from observation. My friend Rachel noticed that her garden plants were not thriving. She studied sunlight exposure, watering habits, and soil conditions, then adjusted care routines. Over time, the garden flourished beautifully. This story highlights that observation, analysis, and applying learned insights lead to successful outcomes in everyday life. Here is an example of effective delegation in professional contexts. My colleague Daniel handled a complex project with multiple deadlines. He identified team members' strengths, assigned responsibilities accordingly, and provided guidance without micromanaging. The project was completed efficiently and exceeded expectations. This story demonstrates that delegation, trust, and structured supervision are essential leadership skills. Now, let's discuss strategic thinking in daily routines. My friend Thomas wanted to improve efficiency at home. He analyzed tasks, identified bottlenecks, and implemented a structured routine that maximized productivity. Over time, he completed daily responsibilities faster and with higher quality. This example illustrates that planning, analysis, and practical implementation lead to improved efficiency in everyday life. Here is an example of adaptability in social situations. My friend James attended a professional seminar where the schedule changed unexpectedly. Instead of being frustrated, he adjusted his plan, attended different sessions, and worked with new people. He gained valuable insights and built meaningful connections. This story shows that flexibility, positive attitude, and proactive engagement enhance both learning and social outcomes. Let's talk about learning from mistakes. My friend Emma attempted a challenging recipe for a family dinner. Her first try failed because she'd misread instructions, but she reviewed the recipe carefully, practiced each step, and successfully prepared the dish on her second attempt. This example emphasizes that reflection, persistence, and iterative practice are essential for mastering complex skills. Here is a story about effective communication at home. My neighbor Laura noticed her family members were feeling stressed due to misaligned schedules. She organized a calm discussion, encouraged everyone to express preferences, and negotiated a fair weekly plan. The family routine improved and stress decreased. This demonstrates that listening, empathy, and structured discussions strengthen relationships and improve coordination. My friend Emma recently shared a story about initiative at work. She noticed that her team struggled with organizing documents efficiently. Instead of waiting for instructions, she developed a new filing system, explained it to her colleagues, and demonstrated how to use it effectively. Her initiative improved team productivity and saved significant time. This story illustrates that taking initiative, proposing solutions, and guiding others can positively impact both workflow and team morale. I also want to share a personal story about resilience. Last year, I attempted to run a half marathon. During training, I faced several setbacks, including minor injuries and schedule conflicts. Instead of quitting, I adapted my training plan, sought advice from experienced runners, and maintained a consistent routine. On the day of the marathon, I completed it successfully. This story demonstrates that resilience, adaptability, and consistent effort help overcome challenges and achieve goals. Let's consider decision-making in professional life. My colleague Daniel had to choose between two vendors for a crucial project. One offered a lower price, but the other had a stronger reputation and better quality assurance. He analyzed risks, consulted with his team, and chose the vendor that ensured long-term success. The project proceeded smoothly, illustrating that careful analysis, consultation, and prioritization are essential for making sound professional decisions. Here is an example of effective communication in a social setting. My friend Rachel attended a networking event where she didn't know anyone. Instead of feeling shy, she approached small groups, asked thoughtful questions, and listened attentively to responses. Within a short time, she built meaningful connections and exchanged contacts for future collaboration. This example highlights that proactive engagement, curiosity, and attentive listening improve networking skills. Travel often teaches lessons in flexibility. My friend Henry and his wife planned a weekend trip to a coastal town. When a ferry they intended to take was canceled due to weather, they quickly explored alternative routes and discovered a scenic road trip option. Along the way, they found a hidden beach and enjoyed a memorable experience. This story demonstrates that flexibility, creativity, and a positive mindset enhance travel experiences. I want to share a story about problem solving at home. My neighbor Laura noticed that her dishwasher stopped working mid-cycle. Instead of panicking, she examined the machine, followed the troubleshooting guide, and fixed a minor blockage. With her husband's assistance for lifting heavy components, they resolved the issue efficiently. This example shows that observation, patience, and teamwork are effective for solving everyday household problems. Let's consider professional growth through continuous learning. My colleague Olivia wanted to improve her negotiation skills. She studied case studies, attended workshops, and practiced scenarios with colleagues. Over several months, she became more confident and effective in negotiations. This story emphasizes that structured learning, consistent practice, and application in real situations are essential for skill development. Here is an example of handling emergencies. My friend Michael experienced a sudden storm while hiking with friends. They had to find shelter quickly. Instead of panicking, he assessed the terrain, guided the group to a safe location, and coordinated supplies efficiently. Everyone stayed safe, demonstrating that composure, logical thinking, and quick decision-making are crucial during emergencies. Let's discuss teamwork and personal projects. My friend Emma wanted to renovate her kitchen with her husband. She outlined tasks, delegated according to each person's strengths, and coordinated the timing of each step. They completed the renovation efficiently and enjoyed the process. This example highlights that planning, collaboration, and effective communication enhanced both results and satisfaction in shared projects. Here is an example of leadership at work. My colleague David was managing a project with a diverse team. Instead of dictating every step, he set clear goals, encouraged autonomy, and provided guidance when necessary. Team members felt empowered and motivated, leading to a high-quality project completion. This story illustrates that supportive leadership, trust, and clear expectations lead to success in team-based projects. Now consider decision-making in daily life. My friend Thomas had to choose between attending a weekend workshop or a family gathering. He weighed the benefits, discussed options with his wife, and considered long-term value. They decided to attend the workshop, which provided useful skills and enjoyable experiences. This example demonstrates that evaluating priorities, consulting stakeholders, and considering long-term benefits improve personal decision-making. Here is a story about professional problem-solving. My colleague Olivia faced an unexpected change in a client's requirements just days before delivery. She assessed priorities, revised the plan, delegated tasks efficiently, and communicated adjustments to her team. The project was delivered on time, exceeding client expectations. This demonstrates that strategic planning, adaptability, and communication are essential for success in fast-paced environments. Let's consider learning from observation. My friend Rachel observed her plants were not growing well. She analyzed sunlight, watering frequency, and soil conditions, then adjusted her approach. Within weeks, her garden thrived. This story highlights that observation, analysis, and practical adjustments produce effective results in everyday life. Here is an example of effective delegation in professional settings. My colleague Daniel was managing multiple overlapping projects. He identified team members' strengths, delegated responsibilities accordingly, and monitored progress without micromanaging. Tasks were completed efficiently, and the projects met deadlines. This story demonstrates that delegation, trust, and structured oversight are vital leadership skills. Now, let's discuss strategic thinking in daily routines. My friend Henry wanted to improve his efficiency while working from home. He analyzed his schedule, removed non-essential tasks, and created focused time blocks for priority activities. Over time, he completed tasks faster and with better quality. This story illustrates that analyzing routines, prioritizing effectively, and applying strategic planning enhances productivity. Here is an example of adaptability in social situations. My friend James attended a seminar where the schedule changed unexpectedly. Instead of becoming frustrated, he adjusted his plan, attended different sessions, and worked with new attendees. He gained valuable insights and established professional connections. This demonstrates that flexibility, proactive engagement, and a positive mindset improve social and professional outcomes. Let's talk about learning from mistakes. My friend Emma tried to assemble complex furniture for her home. She initially misread instructions, but instead of giving up, she reviewed the manual carefully, followed steps methodically, and successfully completed the assembly. This example highlights that reflection, persistence, and structured practice are key to mastering challenging tasks. Here is a story about effective communication at home. My neighbor Laura noticed her family struggled to coordinate schedules. She organized a calm discussion, listened to everyone's concerns, and suggested a fair weekly plan. Communication improved, conflicts decreased, and family harmony increased. This demonstrates that empathy, listening, and structured discussion improve relationships and coordination. Now consider professional growth. My colleague James wanted to enhance his analytical skills. He practiced using data software daily, solved real-world problems, and sought feedback from mentors. Over time, his efficiency and confidence improved significantly. This story illustrates that consistent practice, application, and mentorship accelerate professional development. Here is an example of problem-solving in travel. My friend Anna and her husband had planned multiple city visits. One attraction was unexpectedly closed, so they asked locals for suggestions, adjusted their itinerary, and discovered a cultural festival. This story shows that curiosity, flexibility, and proactive decision-making improve experiences during travel. Let's discuss time management in personal life. My friend Michael had several commitments in a single day. He created a detailed schedule, prioritized important tasks, and avoided multitasking. He completed everything efficiently and maintained focus throughout. This example demonstrates that planning, prioritization, and structured execution improve personal productivity. Here is a story about leadership in community projects. My friend Thomas organized a local charity event. He assigned responsibilities, clearly encouraged teamwork, and monitored progress without micromanaging. The project succeeded and community participation increased. This demonstrates that leadership, organization, and communication are critical for achieving group goals. Adaptability is essential at home as well. My friend Henry faced an unexpected plumbing issue. He calmly assessed the situation, researched solutions online, and fixed the problem with his wife's assistance. This story highlights that logical thinking, composure, and teamwork are effective in handling unforeseen challenges. My friend Olivia recently shared a story about innovation in daily life. She noticed that her kitchen routine was taking longer than necessary. Instead of continuing as usual, she rearranged utensils and ingredients based on frequency of use, added labels for organization, and created a simple checklist for daily tasks. Over time, her kitchen workflow became much more efficient. This example shows that observation, creativity, and practical implementation can significantly improve efficiency in everyday activities. I also want to share a personal story about resilience. Last year, I attempted to learn a new language while managing a full-time job. Initially, progress was slow, and I struggled with complex grammar structures. Instead of giving up, I adjusted my study methods, incorporated short daily practice sessions, and engaged in conversations with friends who were fluent. Over several months, I improved noticeably. This story demonstrates that persistence, adaptation, and consistent effort are key to achieving challenging goals. Let's consider problem-solving in professional scenarios. My colleague Daniel had to prepare a project report under tight deadlines. Midway through, he realized some critical data was missing. Instead of panicking, he prioritized urgent tasks, reached out to relevant team members for information, and updated the report efficiently. The client appreciated the timely and accurate submission. This example highlights that composure, quick problem-solving, and prioritization are essential for handling professional challenges. Here is an example of effective communication in social contexts. My friend Emma attended a community seminar where she didn't know anyone. She approached small groups, asked thoughtful questions, and listened actively to the responses. Within a short period, she established meaningful connections and exchanged contacts for potential collaboration. This story demonstrates that proactive engagement, curiosity, and attentive listening are key to building strong social networks. Travel often teaches lessons in adaptability. My friend Henry and his wife planned a weekend trip to a mountain resort. When a landslide blocked the main road, they researched alternative routes, sought local advice, and adjusted their itinerary. Along the way, they discovered a hidden waterfall, which became the highlight of their trip. This story shows that flexibility, problem-solving, and a positive attitude enhance travel experiences even in unexpected circumstances. I want to share a story about problem-solving at home. My neighbor Laura discovered that her washing machine was not draining properly. Instead of panicking, she reviewed the manual, checked for common issues, and fixed a minor blockage with her husband's assistance. The machine worked perfectly afterward. This example demonstrates that careful observation, research, and teamwork are effective in resolving practical problems at home. Let's consider professional growth through continuous learning. My colleague James wanted to improve his project management skills. He enrolled in online courses, studied case studies, and applied new strategies to his projects. Over time, his confidence and efficiency increased significantly. This story emphasizes that consistent learning, application, and reflection are crucial for developing professional expertise. Here is an example of handling emergencies. My friend Michael was hiking with friends when one member twisted an ankle. Instead of panicking, he quickly assessed the situation, provided first aid, and coordinated transportation to the nearest medical facility. Everyone remained safe, highlighting that composure, quick thinking, and practical action are vital in emergency situations. Let's discuss teamwork in personal projects. My friend Emma and her husband decided to repaint their house. They planned each task delegated according to skills and coordinated timing. The project was completed efficiently and enjoyable for both, illustrating that clear planning, collaboration, and communication enhance outcomes in shared tasks. Here is an example of leadership at work. My colleague David managed a diverse team on a complex project. He encouraged initiative, set clear goals, and provided support without micromanaging. Team members felt motivated and empowered, and the project exceeded expectations. This story demonstrates that trust, guidance, and empowerment are fundamental elements of effective leadership. Now, consider decision-making in personal life. My friend Thomas had to choose between attending a weekend seminar or a family event. He evaluated the benefits, consulted his wife, and considered long-term impact. They chose the seminar, which provided valuable skills and networking opportunities. This example highlights that informed decisions, consultation, and consideration of long-term outcomes improve personal planning. Here is a story about professional problem-solving. My colleague Olivia faced unexpected client revisions just before a major deadline. She analyzed the changes, adjusted the workflow, delegated tasks efficiently, and communicated updates clearly to her team. The project was delivered successfully, demonstrating that flexibility, planning, and communication are essential under pressure. Let's consider learning from observation. My friend Rachel noticed her houseplants were not thriving. She analyzed sunlight, watering, and soil quality, then adjusted care routines. Within weeks, her plants grew healthy and vibrant. This story illustrates that observation, analysis, and practical action produce effective results in everyday life. Here is an example of effective delegation in professional settings. My colleague Daniel managed multiple overlapping projects. He identified team members' strengths, assigned responsibilities accordingly, and monitored progress without micromanaging. Projects were completed on time and met all requirements. This demonstrates that delegation, trust, and structured supervision are crucial leadership skills. Now, let's discuss strategic thinking in daily routines. My friend Henry wanted to optimize his work from home schedule. He analyzed his tasks, identified bottlenecks, and implemented focused time blocks for essential activities. Over several weeks, his efficiency and satisfaction increased significantly. This example highlights that planning, prioritization, and structured execution improve productivity. Here is an example of adaptability in social situations. My friend James attended a professional conference where sessions were rescheduled. Instead of being frustrated, he adapted by attending alternative sessions and networking with different participants. He gained valuable insights and established new professional connections. This demonstrates that flexibility, proactive engagement, and a positive approach enhance social and professional outcomes. Let's talk about learning from mistakes. My friend Emma attempted to repair a complex household appliance. The first attempt failed due to misreading instructions, but she reviewed the guide carefully, followed steps methodically, and succeeded on the second attempt. This story highlights that reflection, persistence, and structured practice are essential for mastering complex tasks. Here's a story about effective communication at home. My neighbor Laura noticed her family had scheduling conflicts. She organized a discussion, listened to everyone's concerns, and suggested a fair weekly plan. Coordination improved, stress decreased, and family satisfaction increased. This demonstrates that empathy, active listening, and structured discussions improve relationships. Now, consider professional growth. My colleague James wanted to enhance his analytical skills. He practiced daily, applied techniques to real problems, and sought feedback from mentors. Over time, his confidence and efficiency improved. This story illustrates that consistent practice, application, and mentorship accelerate skill development. Here is an example of problem solving in travel. My friend Anna and her husband had planned city tours, but one attraction was unexpectedly closed. They asked locals for advice, adjusted their itinerary, and discovered a unique market, which became a highlight. This demonstrates that curiosity, flexibility, and proactive planning improve travel experiences. Let's discuss time management in personal life. My friend Michael had multiple responsibilities in a single day. He created a detailed schedule, prioritized important tasks, and focused on one task at a time. He completed everything efficiently, showing that planning, prioritization, and focused execution enhance personal productivity. Here is a story about leadership in community projects. My friend Thomas organized a local charity drive. He assigned tasks clearly, encouraged collaboration, and monitored progress. The project was successful, demonstrating that organization, clear communication, and leadership are key to achieving group goals. Adaptability is crucial at home. My friend Henry faced a sudden plumbing problem. He calmly assessed the situation, researched solutions, and fixed the issue with his wife's assistance. This story shows that composure, logical thinking, and collaboration are effective in resolving unexpected challenges. Now let's talk about learning through structured practice. My friend Rachel shared that her student Adam struggled with advanced listening skills. Adam practiced daily, listened to podcasts, and summarized key points. Over time, his comprehension improved significantly. This illustrates that consistency, active engagement, and focused practice accelerate learning. That story about Adam's progress really highlights how structured daily practice is the key to mastering any complex skill. Now, I want to build on that idea and share a few more in-depth stories with you. These situations are a bit more complex, and they show how all these skills we've been talking about, communication, problem-solving, and adaptability, often have to work together. Let's dive into a situation at a tech company. My friend Lucas is a project manager for a software development team. A few months ago, his team was working on a major update for their most popular mobile app. It was a high-pressure project. Two of the most senior developers on his team, let's call them Jacob and Emily, had a fundamental disagreement about the best way to build a new feature. Jacob was a big advocate for using a new, cutting-edge programming framework. He argued that it would make the app faster and easier to update in the future. His view was all about long-term innovation. Emily, on the other hand, wanted to stick with the existing, more established technology. She argued that using something new was too risky for such an important update. Her approach was more cautious, focused on stability and reliability. Their disagreement wasn't just a small technical debate. It started to cause real problems. Their discussions in meetings became tense and heated. The rest of the team felt stuck in the middle, and progress on the new feature stalled completely. Lucas knew he had to do something before the conflict derailed the entire project. Instead of taking a side or telling them what to do, Lucas scheduled a special meeting with just Jacob and Emily. He started the meeting not by talking about the technology, but by restating their shared goal. He said, "We all want to build the best possible product for our users, right?" "We agree on that." They both nodded. This simple step reminded them that they were on the same team. Then he asked each of them to explain their position without interruption. He gave Jacob 15 minutes to present all the benefits of the new framework. He asked questions to understand, not to challenge. Then, he gave Emily 15 minutes to explain all the risks and the benefits of their current technology. After they both had a chance to speak, Lucas drew a large table on the whiteboard. On one side, he listed the pros of Jacob's idea, and on the other, the pros of Emily's idea. He also created a cons list for both. As they filled it out together, they began to see the issue more objectively. It wasn't about one person being right and the other being wrong. It was a classic trade-off between innovation and stability. Then, Lucas asked a powerful question. He said, "Is there any way we can get the benefits of both? Can we find a compromise?" This shifted their mindset from conflict to collaboration. After some brainstorming, Emily suggested a hybrid approach. They could use the new framework for a smaller, less critical part of the new feature first. This would allow them to test its performance and stability in a real-world environment without risking the entire app. Jacob agreed that this was a smart way to reduce the risk. They decided to implement this small-scale test. The result was a success. The team got to learn the new technology, and they proved its stability before using it for more critical features later. This story shows a brilliant example of conflict resolution. Lucas didn't act like a boss. He acted like a facilitator. He created a safe space for discussion, made sure everyone felt heard, and guided the team towards a collaborative solution. This approach not only solved the immediate problem, but also strengthened the team's ability to handle disagreements in the future. Now, let's shift from a professional challenge to a very personal one. This next story is about my friend Olivia, and it's a powerful lesson in resilience and the importance of lifelong learning. Olivia had worked in the administration department of a large manufacturing company for over 15 years. She was loyal, hardworking, and very good at her job. But her industry was changing. The company was automating many of its processes, and the skills Olivia had were becoming outdated. One day, she and several of her colleagues were called into a meeting and were told that their positions were being eliminated. She was laid off. Olivia told me she felt a mix of shock, fear, and even anger. Her job was a big part of her identity, and she suddenly felt lost. For the first couple of weeks, she felt completely paralyzed. The thought of looking for a new job was terrifying. She felt that at her age, in her 40s, nobody would want to hire her, especially since her skills were so specific to her old company. But after letting herself process the initial shock, Olivia decided she had two choices. She could either feel sorry for herself, or she could see this as an opportunity to reinvent herself. She chose the second path. She spent a week doing intensive research on growing industries. She noticed that digital marketing was a field with a huge demand for skilled professionals. The idea was scary because she knew very little about it, but it was also exciting. She made a brave decision. She enrolled in a comprehensive online certification program for digital marketing. The first few weeks were incredibly difficult. She was learning about things like search engine optimization, or SEO, and social media analytics. Concepts that were completely foreign to her. She was older than most of the other students in her online classes, and she sometimes felt insecure. But she was determined. She created a strict study schedule for herself. She woke up early every day, spent hours watching tutorials, doing exercises, and reading articles. She wasn't afraid to ask questions in the student forums, even if she thought they were silly questions. Slowly but surely, she started to gain confidence. She began working on small freelance projects for local businesses to build a portfolio. Her hard work paid off. After 6 months of intensive learning and networking, she landed a full-time position as a marketing coordinator at a growing e-commerce company. She told me recently that getting laid off was the best thing that ever happened to her. She's now in a career that she finds much more creative and fulfilling, and she proved to herself that she is capable of adapting to even the most dramatic life changes. Olivia's story is such a powerful reminder that it's never too late to learn something new. Her resilience, her ability to bounce back from a major setback, and her willingness to step out of her comfort zone are truly inspiring. It shows that in today's fast-changing world, our ability to adapt and learn is our most valuable asset. Let's explore one more in-depth story, this time focusing on a very advanced and subtle form of communication, showing empathy in a difficult situation. My friend's father, Dr. Evans, is a doctor who specializes in caring for elderly patients. A while ago, he had the very difficult task of delivering bad news to a family. An elderly patient's health had declined suddenly, and he had to explain to her adult children that there were no more treatment options available and that it was time to focus on making her comfortable. This kind of conversation is incredibly challenging. Dr. Evans knew that what he said and how he said it would have a lasting impact on the family. He didn't rush the conversation. He asked the family to come to the hospital for a private meeting in a quiet room. He started by simply asking them how they were doing, showing that he cared about them as people, not just as a patient's relatives. When he delivered the news, he used simple, clear language. He avoided overly technical medical jargon that could be confusing. He spoke slowly and calmly. He said things like, "I'm so sorry to have to tell you this," which immediately conveyed his empathy. After he explained the medical situation, he paused. He gave the family time to absorb the information. He didn't try to fill the silence. He understood that they needed a moment to process their emotions. What he did next was incredibly important. He leaned forward and said, "I imagine this is very difficult to hear. What questions do you have for me right now?" This invitation opened the door for them to express their fears, their confusion, and their sadness. They asked many questions, and he answered each one patiently and honestly. He never made them feel like they were taking up too much of his time. He also validated their feelings. When the patient's daughter started to cry, he said, "It's completely okay to be upset." This is incredibly sad news. By acknowledging their emotions, he helped them feel understood and supported. Finally, he didn't end the conversation after delivering the bad news. He shifted to discussing the next steps. He talked about palliative care and how the hospital staff would do everything possible to ensure their mother was comfortable and pain-free. He gave them a sense of control in a situation that felt completely out of their control. By the end of the meeting, the family was still very sad, but they were also clear on what was happening and what to expect. They were grateful for his compassion and his clarity. Dr. Evans's approach shows a masterful use of empathetic communication. He was clear, honest, patient, and incredibly compassionate. He listened more than he talked. He focused on the family's needs. This is an advanced communication skill that we can all learn from. Whether we are delivering bad news or just listening to a friend who is having a hard time, the principles are the same. Be present, listen with empathy, validate feelings, and speak with kindness and clarity. These more detailed stories show us that the skills needed for advanced English communication go far beyond just words. They involve emotional intelligence, strategic thinking, and a deep understanding of human interaction. By analyzing situations like Lucas resolving a conflict, Olivia reinventing her career, or doctor, Evan's showing compassion, we can learn so much about how to navigate complex situations in our own lives and how to express ourselves more effectively and thoughtfully in English. I hope you found these stories and examples helpful today. The main idea is that improving your advanced English listening skills is not just about studying grammar rules or memorizing vocabulary. It's about understanding how language is used in real life, in different situations and contexts. By listening to these stories, you are not only practicing your listening comprehension, but you're also learning about problem solving, communication, and other important life skills. Think about the stories we discussed today. Think about Liam staying calm under pressure, or Noah and Mia planning their kitchen renovation together. Think about Ethan asking clarifying questions, or Olivia managing a difficult project. Each story has a lesson that you can apply to your own life and your own English learning journey. The more you listen to and understand these kinds of real-life scenarios, the more confident you will become in your own ability to use English in any situation. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Best English Podcast. We love having you as part of our community. If you enjoyed this episode and found it useful, please consider subscribing to our channel. And don't forget to turn on the bell notification. That way, you won't miss our next daily English listening practice. We look forward to having you with us again next time. Until then, keep practicing and have a wonderful day.